The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning. Every screen on Earth suddenly displayed the same image: a collection of alien beings seated in what appeared to be a grand chamber. Humanity's first contact had finally arrived, but not in the way anyone had imagined. "We, the Galactic Council, have observed your species for the past century," announced the central figure, its translucent skin glowing with subtle patterns. "We regret to inform you that humanity has been deemed unsuitable for integration into the galactic community." In the United Nations Emergency Chamber, world leaders watched in stunned silence. President Robert Wilson of the North American Alliance gripped his chair until his knuckles turned white. Admiral Jane Thompson of the Global Space Force stood rigid, her face a mask of controlled anger. "Your species displays concerning levels of aggression, unpredictability, and resource consumption," the alien continued. "For the safety of all civilized worlds, we must contain your influence." Before anyone could formulate a response, massive energy signatures appeared at the edge of the solar system. Enormous structures materialized, crystalline arrays that began generating a web of purple-tinted energy barriers around the entire Sol system. "These containment fields will prevent faster-than-light travel beyond your solar system," the alien explained. "You may continue to develop within these boundaries. This is not a punishment, but a necessary precaution." The transmission ended, leaving humanity in shocked silence. In the days that followed, chaos erupted. Stock markets crashed. Religions struggled to adapt their doctrines. Conspiracy theories spread like wildfire. But amid the chaos, something unexpected happened. Humanity began to unite. "We didn't come this far to be caged," Admiral Thompson declared during an emergency UN session. "If they won't give us the stars, we'll find our own way." The world's governments, faced with an external threat for the first time in human history, began to set aside their differences. Within months, the Solar Coalition was formed, a unified human government focused on survival and advancement. Earth's best scientists worked around the clock studying the barrier. They discovered that while it blocked conventional faster-than-light travel, it didn't prevent the development of technology within the solar system. This oversight would prove crucial. "They think they're protecting the galaxy from us," Dr. Thomas Reed, lead physicist at the Coalition Science Division, told his team. "But they've just given us the motivation to become stronger than they could imagine." The coalition immediately launched ambitious expansion projects within the solar system. If humanity couldn't expand outward, they would make use of every rock and resource within their prison. Mars colonization, which had been progressing slowly, suddenly accelerated. Venus cloud cities, once considered too ambitious, received unlimited funding. The asteroid belt became a mining frontier. By the end of the first year of exile, humanity had changed. The petty conflicts of the past seemed meaningless compared to the challenge ahead. Schools began teaching children about their new purpose, not to simply explore the stars, but to earn their place among them. In his private office, President Wilson looked out at the night sky, where the faint purple shimmer of the barrier was visible on clear nights. "They thought they were containing us," he said to Admiral Thompson, who stood beside him. "Instead, they forced us to focus, to unite, to become something greater." "How long until we have a real chance of breaking free?" Thompson asked. Wilson smiled grimly. "The Council probably thinks we'll need centuries to even approach their level of technology. But they don't understand human nature. When you tell us we can't do something, we find a way," Thompson finished. As the first year of humanity's exile drew to a close, billions of humans looked up at the barrier that imprisoned them. But instead of seeing a cage, they saw a challenge. The Council had meant to contain humanity's aggression and ambition. Instead, they had focused it, like a laser, on a single goal. Humanity would not merely escape their prison. They would build something so magnificent that the galaxy would never dare to dismiss them again. The exile had begun, but so had humanity's greatest journey. 50 years passed like a slow-burning fuse. Mars had transformed from a red desert into a network of sprawling domed cities. Venus's upper atmosphere hosted floating research stations where scientists worked tirelessly to unlock the secrets of their cosmic prison. Dr. James Miller stood in his laboratory aboard the Venus Research Station Alpha, staring at holographic projections of the barrier's energy patterns. At 32, he was considered brilliant even by the Coalition's high standards. Dark circles under his eyes showed the toll of his obsession. "There's something we're all missing," he muttered, manipulating the hologram with practiced gestures. "The barrier isn't perfect." "Nothing is." Behind him, the station's AI announced an incoming call. "Dr. Miller, Project Director Andrews is requesting your presence in the main conference room." James barely heard the message. His attention was fixed on an anomaly in the data, a pattern that shouldn't exist. He'd seen something similar in quantum tunneling experiments, but at a much smaller scale. "Dr. Miller," the AI repeated. "Tell them I found something," James said, his voice tight with excitement. "Something big." In the conference room, Director Andrews and the station's senior staff gathered around a large circular table. The atmosphere was tense with anticipation. "The barrier isn't just blocking space," James explained, projecting his findings. "It's actively pushing against any attempt to breach it. But look here." He highlighted a section of data. "When we hit it with specific energy frequencies, it doesn't push back, it resonates." Director Andrews leaned forward. "What exactly are you suggesting?" "The Council's technology isn't magic. It follows rules, patterns, and I think I've found a weakness." James paused, choosing his words carefully. "We've been trying to break through the barrier. We should be trying to slip between its pulses instead." The room erupted in discussion. Some scientists argued it was impossible. Others demanded immediate testing. Director Andrews silenced them all with a raised hand. "How sure are you about this?" James met his gaze. "Sure enough to bet my life on it. We need to start Project Phoenix." Project Phoenix began in secret. Deep within Venus's cloud cities, engineers constructed test vessels based on James's theories. Each failure taught them something new. Each success brought them closer to freedom. Meanwhile, on Earth, the Coalition continued its public display of acceptance. They maintained regular communication with the Council's monitoring stations, showing only peaceful development within their allowed boundaries. Status report. Admiral Thompson's successor, Admiral William Hayes, demanded during a classified briefing. Test Vehicle 7 achieved a 0.3-second phase shift, the project leader reported. "We nearly slipped through before the barrier detected it. We're getting closer." Hayes nodded grimly. "The Council's watching us more closely lately. They've noticed our increased energy usage." "We're ready for the full test," James interrupted. Everyone turned to look at him. Not with a drone this time, with a crewed vessel. The room fell silent. A crewed test would risk human lives, but it would also allow for real-time adjustments that automated systems couldn't handle. Hayes studied James carefully. "You're volunteering." "I am." James stepped forward. "I know this will work. We've verified the math 100 times." 3 weeks later, James sat in the cockpit of the Phoenix 1, a small vessel designed specifically for this mission. Its hull contained revolutionary phase shift technology that, if successful, would let it slip through the quantum gaps in the barrier's defense. "Phoenix 1, you are cleared for launch," Control announced. "Good luck, Dr. Miller." As the ship rose through Venus's clouds, James thought about humanity's journey to this point. 50 years of preparation, of learning, of waiting. The Council had expected them to accept their prison. Instead, they had spent every moment planning their escape. "Beginning phase shift sequence," James reported calmly. Ahead of him, the barrier's purple glow filled his viewport. For humanity. The ship's engines hummed as they approached the barrier. Either they would make history, or they would fail spectacularly. But as James had learned, humanity's greatest achievements often came from moments exactly like this, when someone dared to attempt the impossible. The barrier loomed closer and humanity held its breath. The Phoenix One's success changed everything. James Miller's ship had slipped through the barrier like a ghost passing through a wall, leaving no trace of its passage. When he returned 3 days later, using the same method to re-enter the solar system, the celebration was silent but intense. The Council's monitors showed no signs of detecting the breach. Security Chief Lisa Brown reported during the classified briefing. Their sensors registered only normal background radiation. Director Andrews smiled for the first time in months. Then we begin Phase 2. Phase 2 was humanity's greatest act of deception. While maintaining their appearance of a contained civilization, the Coalition began constructing stealth ships deep within the asteroid belt. Each vessel incorporated the phase shift technology, improved and refined from James's original design. "We build in silence" became the whispered motto of the shipyards. Workers lived on site for months at a time to avoid any suspicious movement patterns that the Council might detect. The first fleet took shape in darkness. 20 ships, each designed for long-range exploration and potential colonization. Their hulls were black as space itself, incorporating advanced stealth technology that made them nearly invisible even to human sensors. Commander Rachel Hart stood on the bridge of the lead ship, the Shadow Seeker. "All ships report ready," she announced to Admiral Hayes. "We await your order." Hayes looked at the assembled crew, the best pilots and scientists humanity had to offer. "Remember your training. If you encounter any Council vessels, do not engage. We are ghosts, nothing more." The fleet departed in stages, slipping through different points in the barrier to avoid creating any noticeable pattern. Their destination: the nearest potentially habitable systems beyond Council space. Back in the solar system, the deception continued. The Coalition maintained regular diplomatic contact with Council representatives, expressing continued acceptance of their containment. They even invited Council observers to inspect their development, carefully showing them exactly what they wanted to see. "Your species shows admirable adaptation to your circumstances," the Council observer noted during one such visit. "We've learned to make the best of our situation," replied Coalition President Mark Russell, hiding his smile. At that very moment, the Shadow Seeker was landing on humanity's first extrasolar colony. Commander Hart's voice crackled through encrypted channels. "New Eden is secured. The planet is even better than our scan suggested. We begin construction immediately." Over the next 5 years, humanity expanded in secret. Each new colony was established with meticulous care. Cities were built underground or beneath massive camouflage shields. Ships traveled only through carefully plotted blind spots in Council space. The Council, focused on monitoring the barrier around Sol, never thought to look for human activity beyond it. Their own arrogance became humanity's greatest advantage. "We've established 5 colony worlds," James reported during a secret Council session. Now serving as Chief of Scientific Development, he had helped design most of the stealth technology, protecting their expanding civilization. Each one completely self-sufficient and invisible to Council detection. President Russell nodded in satisfaction. "And the new phase shift generators. We're installing them on every colony," James confirmed. "If the Council ever discovers one world, they won't find the others. Each colony can shift partially out of phase, becoming effectively invisible." The meeting was interrupted by an urgent message. A Council science vessel had appeared near Mars, requesting permission to study human development patterns. "Let them come," Russell decided. "Show them exactly what they expect to see. A contained civilization, peacefully accepting its limits." As the Council ship arrived, humanity's secret fleet continued its silent expansion among the stars. The Great Deception was working perfectly. While their wardens watched the cage, the prisoners had already escaped and built their own hidden kingdom. In his private quarters, President Russell reviewed the latest colony reports. "They thought they could contain human ingenuity," he mused. "Instead, they taught us to be cleverer than they ever imagined. The stars belong to humanity now. even if the galaxy didn't know it yet. Under the cover of a moonless night, the colony ship Pathfinder slipped through Earth's atmosphere. Unlike the early vessels, this massive ship carried 5,000 colonists in suspended animation. Below, the cities of Earth glowed softly, their lights dimmed to maintain the illusion of a civilization, still bound by resource limitations. Final check on stealth systems, Captain David West ordered. His ship represented the latest achievement in human engineering, a vessel that could carry an entire community to the stars without leaving a trace. Stealth systems at full power, his first officer reported. Phase shift drive ready for barrier crossing. 10 years had passed since the first successful breach. What began as a trickle had become a carefully orchestrated stream. Humanity was moving to the stars, one hidden ship at a time. In the colony processing center beneath Mount Atlas, families prepared for their journey. Each colonist had been carefully selected and trained for their new life beyond the barrier. Remember, the orientation leader told them, as far as the galaxy knows, you don't exist. The success of our expansion depends on absolute secrecy. Among the colonists stood Michael Reed, a terraforming expert. His young daughter clutched his hand, eyes wide with excitement. They were headed to New Aurora, the 12th human colony world. "What's it like, Dad?" she whispered. "The new world." Michael smiled. "It's like Earth was 1,000 years ago. Clean, untouched, and it's ours to build on, as long as we build carefully." Above them, the Pathfinder began its carefully planned departure sequence. Council monitoring stations would register only normal orbital traffic, supply ships heading to Mars or Venus. The ship's revolutionary camouflage systems mimicked the signatures of authorized vessels perfectly. In her command center on New Eden, Commander Hart reviewed the latest expansion reports. "Colony 13 begins construction next month," she noted. "The network is growing faster than we anticipated." The human colonial network had developed its own culture. Secrecy and stealth were not just security measures, they had become art forms. Cities were built to blend seamlessly with their environments. Ships moved like shadows between the stars. Even radio communications were disguised as background radiation. Back in the Sol system, the Coalition continued its masterful performance. They maintained the appearance of a civilization focused inward, concerned only with developing their allocated space. The humans show remarkable contentment with their situation. One council report noted, "Their development proceeds along expected patterns." President Russell read the report with quiet satisfaction. "They see exactly what they expect to see," he told his advisors, "a caged species, accepting its limits." But humanity was far from accepting. Each colony world developed its own specialties. New Eden became a center for agricultural research, developing crops that could thrive on alien worlds. Aurora Prime focused on advanced physics, pushing the boundaries of stealth technology even further. The Pathfinder crossed the barrier without incident, its precious cargo of colonists sleeping peacefully. Captain West allowed himself a small smile as they entered free space. "Course set for New Aurora," he announced. "We'll be home in 3 weeks." The word home had taken on new meaning. For many humans, home was no longer the Sol system. It was out there, in the hidden worlds they had claimed and transformed. In his quarters on Pathfinder, Michael Reed wrote in his journal, "They meant to contain us, to limit us. Instead, they forced us to become more than we were. We learned to move unseen, to build in silence, to expand without leaving a trace. We became the shadows between the stars." The silent exodus continued. Each month, thousands more humans slipped away to the colony worlds. Every departure was calculated, every arrival carefully concealed. The Council's barrier had become nothing more than a curtain, behind which humanity orchestrated its greatest performance. "When will we reveal ourselves?" a young officer asked Commander Hart during a colony inspection. She gazed at the hidden city before them, its buildings seeming to grow naturally from the alien landscape. "When we're ready," she replied. "When we're strong enough that they can never cage us again." The stars waited, silent witnesses to humanity's secret spread across the galaxy. 200 years after the exile, humanity had transformed itself beyond recognition. 50 star systems now housed hidden human colonies, each more advanced than their ancestors could have imagined. The scattered worlds had united under a single banner, the Terran Shadow Empire. Grand Admiral Peter Wright stood at the observation deck of Shadowheart Station, the Empire's hidden capital. Below him stretched a city that defied conventional physics. Buildings phased in and out of normal space, their quantum architecture making them nearly impossible to detect. "Status report on Project Ascendance," he asked his chief scientist. "The new phase shift technology is ready," Dr. Emma Stone replied. "Our ships can now move through Council space without using their designated travel lanes. We're effectively invisible to their most advanced sensors." Humanity had surpassed their jailers in almost every way. While the Council relied on established technologies, human scientists had been forced to think differently, to develop entirely new approaches to physics and engineering. In a secure chamber deep within Shadowheart, the Empire's Council of Directors met to discuss their next move. Representatives from all 50 colonies attended, some in person, others as quantum-linked holograms, so perfect they were indistinguishable from reality. The Council's latest patrol passed within 1 light-year of New Eden. Director Marcus Black reported, "They didn't detect a thing. Our stealth systems are perfect." The technology that kept their empire hidden had evolved far beyond simple cloaking devices. Entire planets could now shift partially out of phase with normal space, appearing as lifeless rocks to any observer. "Our population has reached 10 billion, another director added, "spread across 50 worlds, all hidden from the galaxy's eyes." What had started as desperate survival had become something greater. The Shadow Empire had developed its own culture, its own way of life. They had learned to thrive in secrecy, to build wonders that never saw the light of day. In the military training facilities of Aurora Prime, pilots learned to fly ships that could bend reality itself. The latest vessels didn't just hide from sensors. They manipulated probability, making their very existence seem impossible to outside observers. "Power isn't about being seen," flight instructor Jack Torres told his students. "It's about choosing when to be seen." The Empire's cities were marvels of engineering and artistry. Buildings adapted to their inhabitants' needs, streets rearranged themselves for maximum efficiency, and public spaces transformed to accommodate any gathering. But perhaps the greatest achievement was the Shadow Net, a communication system that operated through quantum entanglement. It allowed instant, untraceable communication between all human worlds, coordinating the activities of an invisible empire. "We've become more than they ever feared we could be," Admiral Wright mused during a strategic meeting. "They wanted to contain our aggression, our ambition. Instead, they forced us to channel it into something extraordinary." The Empire's technology had advanced in unexpected directions. Unable to fight their enemies directly, they had learned to master subtlety and misdirection. Their weapons were elegant, their defenses impenetrable, their ships more advanced than anything the Council had dreamed possible. In her laboratory on New Eden, Dr. Stone activated her latest creation, a device that could manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe itself. "We had to understand the universe better than anyone else," she explained to her apprentices. "It was the only way to hide from it." The Shadow Empire had become a civilization of paradoxes. They were everywhere and nowhere, the most powerful force in known space, yet officially they didn't exist at all. "How long can we maintain this secrecy?" a young colony administrator asked during a planning session. Director Black smiled. "As long as we need to. We're not hiding because we're weak. We're hiding because it makes us stronger." In orbit above Shadowheart, the Empire's newest ships prepared for their first mission. These vessels represented the pinnacle of human achievement, ships that could rewrite the laws of physics around them. The Shadow Empire had become everything the Council had feared, and more. But they had also become something else: patient, disciplined, and wise enough to know that true power doesn't need to be seen to be felt. The stars belong to humanity now, even if humanity had chosen to rule them from the shadows. The Council exploration vessel Light Seeker drifted through what they believed was empty space. Its mission was routine, mapping unexplored systems for potential colonization. None of its crew expected to make history that day. Energy spike detected. The sensor officer reported suddenly. Pattern unknown. Wait, it's gone. For a fraction of a second, their sensors had caught a glimpse of something impossible, a human energy signature, light years from Earth's containment barrier. Captain Trell, a veteran of the Council fleet, stared at the readings in disbelief. Begin full spectrum scan. Something's not right here. At that exact moment, in the hidden city below, alarms blared through the command center of New Horizon Colony. Council vessel detected in orbit. The AI announced calmly. Standard concealment protocols failing. Governor Richard Banks faced a decision that would change the course of history. The colony's phase shift generators were malfunctioning, a once-in-a-century technical fault. They could either evacuate the 2 million colonists or contact Shadowheart, he ordered. It's time. Aboard the Light Seeker, the crew watched in awe as the space before them seemed to ripple. Like a veil being lifted, a gleaming city appeared on the planet's surface. But it was what happened next that truly shocked them. 3 massive ships materialized around their vessel, appearing from seemingly nowhere. Each one dwarfed the Light Seeker, their designs unlike anything in Council records. This is Admiral Wright of the Terran Shadow Empire. A calm voice transmitted on all frequencies. Please maintain your current position. Captain Trell's mandibles clicked in shock. Humans. But how? The barrier. The barrier became irrelevant 2 centuries ago, Wright replied. Your ship has discovered one of our 50 colonial worlds. We've been expecting something like this to happen eventually. In the following hours, the Council ship's crew witnessed things that defied their understanding of physics. Cities that phased in and out of reality. Ships that moved without conventional engines. Technology that made their most advanced systems look primitive. Emergency meetings erupted across Council space as the news spread. Humanity had not only escaped their containment, they had built an empire in secret, advancing beyond anything the Council had imagined possible. How did we miss this? The High Council demanded, their chamber in chaos. 50 worlds. 200 years. The answer was simple. They had underestimated human ingenuity. While the Council watched their cage, humanity had learned to become invisible, to build and grow in ways that defy detection. Back on New Horizon, Governor Banks hosted the first official delegation from the Council in 2 centuries. He watched their expressions as they toured the city, seeing their understanding of the universe crumble with each new revelation. Your buildings, they exist in multiple phase states simultaneously, one Council scientist noted, his voice trembling with excitement and fear. A basic necessity when you need to hide entire civilizations, Banks explained. We had to master quantum engineering just to survive. The news spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had supported humanity's containment now faced a frightening reality. Humans hadn't been contained at all. They had used their imprisonment as motivation to evolve beyond anyone's expectations. Admiral Wright stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the Council ships arrive for emergency negotiations. Each vessel that dropped out of faster-than-light travel showed the same reaction. Shock at the sight of human ships that made their own look obsolete. They're scanning us, his tactical officer reported. Trying to understand our technology. Wright smiled. Let them look. They're seeing only what we want them to see. The Council's power structure was already beginning to fracture. Some species called for immediate military action, while others sought alliance with this newly revealed superpower. But they all shared one realization. Humanity had outgrown its cage long ago. As the Council delegation prepared to depart New Horizon, Captain Trell turned to Governor Banks. We thought we were protecting the galaxy from you, he said quietly. Perhaps we were actually protecting ourselves from seeing what humanity could become. The revelation was complete. The Shadow Empire had stepped into the light, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Admiral Wright took the podium. 200 years ago, humans had stood in this same room to receive their sentence of exile. Now they returned not as prisoners, but as masters of technologies the Council barely understood. "We did not come here for revenge," Wright began, his voice carrying across the chamber. "We came to offer a new beginning." Behind him, holographic displays showed the true extent of human advancement. 50 thriving worlds, technologies that transcended conventional physics, and ships that could traverse the galaxy like shadows. "Your containment barrier taught us patience," Wright continued. "Your attempts to limit us forced us to evolve. But most importantly, your fear of our potential helped us understand the importance of wisdom." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some species demanded immediate action against this human threat. Others saw opportunity in alliance. The council's unity, maintained for millennia, was crumbling. President Anna Foster of the Shadow Empire stepped forward. Unlike the military precision of Wright's uniform, she wore simple civilian clothes, a deliberate choice to show humanity's peaceful intentions. "We could have revealed ourselves with weapons," she said calmly. "Instead, we choose to offer partnership. The galaxy faces challenges that require unity, not division." As if to emphasize her point, the massive viewing screen showed human ships assisting a council world recently devastated by a natural disaster. The ships phased through debris to rescue survivors, their advanced technology saving thousands. In the following days, delegations from various species visited human worlds. They saw cities that danced between dimensions, ships that rewrote physical laws, and most importantly, a civilization that had learned to temper power with responsibility. "Your species achieved this in secret?" asked one council member, watching a demonstration of quantum architecture on New Eden. "We had to," Dr. Stone explained, now serving as humanity's chief scientific ambassador. "Secrecy taught us caution. Limitation taught us innovation. Isolation taught us self-reliance." The old power structure of the galaxy began to shift. Species that had once supported humanity's containment now sought their guidance. The Shadow Empire's technologies offered solutions to problems that had plagued civilizations for centuries. "We offer our advances freely," President Foster announced during a crucial session. "But we also offer a warning. Never again attempt to cage a species with potential. Help them grow instead." The Council's response came in stages. First, they formally acknowledged the Shadow Empire as a sovereign power. Then they began the process of restructuring galactic governance to include human representation. In orbit above Earth, the containment barrier was finally dismantled. Not by force, but by mutual agreement. Humanity had proven itself not by breaking free, but by choosing when and how to reveal their freedom. The barrier served its purpose, Admiral Wright reflected during the ceremony. Just not the purpose they intended. The integration of human technology into wider galactic society began cautiously. The Shadow Empire shared their advances gradually, teaching other species the wisdom they had learned during their long exile. On New Horizon, where the revelation had first begun, Governor Banks hosted a celebration marking the new era. Representatives from 100 species watched in wonder as human children played with gravity, their toys phasing between dimensions as naturally as breathing. "We feared your aggression," Captain Trell admitted to Banks. "We never imagined you would master it so completely." The final act of reconciliation came with the establishment of the new Galactic Alliance. Unlike the old Council, this organization emphasized cooperation and mutual growth. Humanity's long isolation had taught them the value of unity, and now they shared that lesson with the galaxy. President Foster's closing speech at the Alliance's founding ceremony summed up humanity's journey. "They cast us out from the stars, thinking to contain us. Instead, they taught us to build our own path among them. Now we return, not seeking vengeance, but offering hope. The stars belong to all of us, and together we will reach heights none of us could achieve alone. A new dawn had truly begun, not just for humanity, but for all species who looked up at the stars and dreamed of what might be possible.